courtroom at the Court of Appeal is quite scanty and calm, but it's a reflection of the weight of the case before justices of the Appellate Court. The Rivers State government filed an appeal challenging the decision of Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court, who nullified the passage of the Rivers State 800 billion naira 2024 budget by 4 members of the House of Assembly. Delivering the lead judgment, Justice James Oyewole held that the governor, Siminalayi Fubara, withdrew from the case at the lower court and cannot commence an appeal in a matter he did not challenge at the trial court. The court added that the Rivers State governor was using his immunity to carry out executive lawlessness by presenting the budget to only 4 members and signing same into law under 24 hours, which amounts to a gross violation of Section 91 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. In the unanimous judgment, the Appellate Court voided and set aside the passage of the 2024 budget by 4 out of 32 members on the ground of illegality. The court also ordered the governor to pay a cost of 500,000 naira each to the respondents.
Court of Appeal this afternoon affirmed the decision of Justice Omotosho, and in affirming same, clearly stated that Right Honorable Martin Chike Amewule is the authentic Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly.
The Speaker of the 27 House of Assembly members speaks on the judgment.
Everybody heard, and very clearly too, when the justices made it clear that I remain the Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly. They emphasized the fact that I was elected on the 5th day of June 2023, and that there has not been any reason to say that I lost my seats because I was never impeached and I was never removed. That emphasis was made by the Court of Appeal today.
Many now wait to see if the Rivers State governor will appeal the judgment at a higher court. Emanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
Okay, so those are some of the matters that we're going to consider now. We've got Mr. John Oleide, who is a legal practitioner himself, joining us. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Good morning, Daniel, for having me today.
All right, so interpretation is what we seek of you, or ask of you today. Help us shed some light on this matter, because yes, we've heard from those persons who spoke in that particular report, but there are statements credited to the Commissioner for Information in Rivers State saying that that particular case did not help Amewule-led group's case. According to him, he said that there are still defected members of the House, and that it says clearly in Section 109 sub 12, which he says is self-executory. And he says that the status of their membership of the House was not the subject matter in that particular case, and that they're going to Supreme Court to determine that particular matter. How do you explain this to us?
Well, I will most humbly disagree with the Honorable Commissioner for Information or for Justice, Rivers State, on that. The latest pronouncement on the issues at hand is that of the Court of Appeal, which was delivered yesterday. And I mean, every court makes pronouncements on the issues for determination. They have said the issue of Amewule's speakership was not in contention in that matter. But they have not said that the issue of passage of the bill, I mean, the revenue bill, was not in issue. And that's exactly what the Court of Appeal pronounced upon. It started at the Federal High Court, and there was a pronouncement. And it was stated clearly by the lower court that the body of 4 members to whom His Excellency, the Governor of Rivers State, presented the budget to, was a nullity, was null and void. And now that has been affirmed by the Court of Appeal. Yes, Rivers State government has a right of appeal to the Supreme Court. But as of today, I most humbly cannot toe the same line as the Governor for Justice, Rivers State. What is the law as regards the budget that was passed is that that budget is a nullity, and that's the way it stands.
Well, how does that, is that enforceable in the sense that I heard some people saying, look, we've already spent this money, the money has been allocated already, the horse has since left the stable, how are we going to go back and perform this function all over again?
Now, that is the sad part of what is unfolding in Rivers State. The problem has nothing to do with the interpretation of the laws. I always emphasize that. I mean, when the Honorable Commissioner said, oh, a particular section of the Constitution is self-executory, there are so many sections of the Constitution that are actually self-executory. But the problem is that we do not follow the self-executory nature of our laws, of so many of our laws. We always want to twist our laws. Now, but the budget, I mean, this is October. I believe this whole problem started sometime in November last year. And this is a year, this is October, so about 12 months afterwards, we are talking about a budget that has been virtually expended. I'm sure there have been supplementary budgets. So now, you then go back to the court. A court should not make an order in vain. Now, it is not in my office to tell the court to make policy decisions, to turn around the hands of the clock. But I believe that a court is well in order to act within the confines of what has been presented before it. The issue of whether the budget has been validly spent or not was not an issue before the court. Now, that is a river we're approaching. I'm sure by the time we get to that river, I mean, maybe the issue of impeachment, for instance, the people who now feel justified by this recent judgment of the Court of Appeal may then use it as a basis for proffering impeachment proceedings against the sitting governor, because you and I know that this is not just about budget. It's a lot more. That's why the people who have the judgment in their favor are saying, oh, the court has affirmed that I am the speaker. Oh, we, the 26 members, 28 members, that we have not, nobody has removed us. We have not forfeited our offices. That is why they are saying that. Because the issue is not about the betterment of the lot of the Rivers State people. It is not about allocating resources to make life better for the Rivers State people. It is about them. It is an ego problem. And they are using the instrumentality of the law to try and sway people to their respective positions.
So what would you advise the states to do now? I mean, the government, because if they then say, well, we're going to go on appeal, so we have to stay action. We can't do anything. And in the meantime, of course, they'll have to continue running the states. Nothing can be in vacuum.
Well, I mean, it's as easy as A, B, and C. You know as well as I do that they are going to the Supreme Court. I mean, all these cases, they are just piled up there at the Supreme Court. A lot of other important cases are not going on because of these cases being presented by politicians at the Courts of Appeal and at the Supreme Court. It's going to the Supreme Court. Whatever I say, whatever you say, whatever you think, whatever I think, is not going to sway the losing party from doing what we probably would say is reasonable. I mean, if it's about the Rivers State people, and all of these people were ordinarily in the same party. If you remember, there was a time, this matter at I think Rivers State High Court, there was a pronouncement on the fact that, oh, these people have they forfeited their positions as members of the State House of Assembly. And then we don't really know where that has ended. Now, these same people now, along the line, there was a pronouncement that, oh, there was nowhere, there's no evidence before the court to actually show that they renounced their membership of the party that sponsored them. And then, there was back and forth about, they said it, I mean, in public, in full public there. Then whether, it should be in writing, whether they resigned and all that, all those issues were in public domain. But evidential value that will be attached to any representation is not the same thing, is not the way you look at it in public. It's different in the court of law. Now, these people are now saying, the reasonable thing, really, if it's about the Rivers State people, is for these people who have said, we resigned. Oh, no, we didn't resign. We never resigned. So they are still supposedly PDP members. Fubara, His Excellency, is supposedly PDP members. Where is the party hierarchy? What is the party doing about it? I'm not a member of their party or any of those parties. But now, ordinarily, if we actually have political parties in Nigeria, this is the point where Nigerians should begin to ask themselves, why do we need political parties? Why not independent candidacy? Because if people who claim to be PDP members are working against the interests of PDP governor, and the PDP governor who claims to be a member of PDP will sit and allow a party that is probably an unknown quantity to win the local government chairmanship election, you begin to wonder whether we actually practice party democracy in this country. Because if these people actually belong to the same party, like we know in Nigeria, it's supposed to be a family affair. In those days, everything, when PDP was in power, it was always a family affair. But now, it's like the dark sheep in the family has grown up, and there is war of attrition. So the reasonable thing is not going to be done. They always want to take all their dirty linen to the courts. And let us just hope that the courts would rise up to this occasion and do the needful.
It's very interesting because you have already said that the issue at hand right now seems like a matter of ego. But this is the this is the ruling of the Court of Appeal setting aside this budget that has now been passed. And one of the complaints, or one of the things that came out of that judgment, is that it cannot have been presented to 4 members of the State House of Assembly. Doesn't that, by extension, also validate the the membership of the remaining members of the House of Assembly? If the grounds of the justices or their lordships so that you cannot present a budget before 4 people and it will pass.
Now, in our own world, I'm not talking as a lawyer now. I'm talking just like you would talk as a reasonable person. How can 4 persons pass a budget in respect of a whole state, and there are about 28 other members that have been left out? How can that be? Why the hurry? Why can't you follow through by saying, okay, we now have only 4 people because these people are forfeited. Let us assume that there has been a proper pronouncement that those people have forfeited their seats. Why can't you then follow up and say, okay, we want a by-election so that we can meet up with the required quorum? Now, you know what they do with house rules. They have house rules. There should be a quorum. Now, whenever they want to do all these things that they do at any level in Nigeria, suddenly they will amend the house rules. I don't know what they did in this case. I don't know whether the house rules were amended to reflect the fact that 4 persons can stand as the whole House of Rivers State, House of Assembly for Rivers State. If they did that, well, it stands to a reason. How do you logically explain that to reasonable minds like you and I? That this just doesn't make sense. So if the Court of Appeal did not even make that particular pronouncement, assuming it was not an issue that arose from the matter before the Court of Appeal, it stands to reason that in a house that is made of over 32 members and all that, you cannot begin to have a situation where 4 persons would determine how such a huge budget, 800 million naira, will be spent. I am not here trying to support a particular cause. I try to be fair in my analysis. I don't know what is, even in court, we have what we call the standard of the reasonable man. So it doesn't, you don't even need a court to tell you that, okay, where people forfeit their disadvantages, there is a situation where you don't even have a quorum, or you cannot say, creditably that the 4 people are representing the whole of River State. What is the next thing to be done in accordance with the law, in accordance with the Constitution? Why didn't you go that route? Why did you first of all have to pass the budget and then continue all this rigmarole, going from one court to the other, searching for orders to support what is inherently, null and void? So yes, it is just the Court of Appeal does not need to make a pronouncement. There is something we say, that when the court wants to use the standard of the reasonable man, the court will say, look, what would that reasonable man out there standing out there, what would that person say? Looking at the whole scenario, what would that person say who is not a lawyer, who is just a reasonable person, a logical person? What will he say looking at 4 persons passing a whole budget for the whole of Rivers State? Will that the president say, oh, in Nigeria, nothing is of course. You cannot assume that, oh, it's of course. You cannot say, oh, somebody has forfeited his seat. Of course, because it can't, of course. Isn't there something you could have done to confirm that and then get the appropriate pronouncement? So really, it is, unfortunately, the case will get to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will give them a hearing. Lawyers will be there to present the papers. Unfortunately, there are so many of us who have more important cases to us and to our lives who will not be heard because of all this charade that is going on.
I'm very concerned about, I don't know whether you share that concern, about the post-press briefing, because it's one thing for the lordships. Yes, press people were there and our own journalists reported what she heard in the court, which is a setting aside of the budget, which is not in dispute. But then, you now also hear the briefing that was granted by the lawyer to those who went to court, and then you also hear the speaker, Martin Zamewule, saying that the appeal court, has confirmed and affirmed that he is the authentic Speaker of the House. And then much later, you see a statement from the Attorney General of the state saying that there was no such thing, that their lordships never ruled on any such thing. I'm trying to find the appropriate words now, where he says, after the judgment of the Court of Appeal today, there is a gale of misrepresentation and misinterpretation that Martin Amewule and 26 others remain members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, with Martin Amewule as the Speaker thereof. This is patently false. He says the defection of Martin Amewule and 26 others was not an issue for determination in the Federal High Court, Abuja, and the Court of Appeal. What was an issue was the 2023 appropriation law and the National Assembly taking over legislative functions of the Rivers State House of Assembly. So you find this, and of course, they also confirmed that they're going to be going to the Supreme Court. We don't have to guess on that anymore. I mean, they have confirmed that they're going there. I am just a little concerned that this is something that people witnessed. And when we come out of the court, granting press interviews, we're not now sure again what it is that their lordship said. I don't know. Are you as confused as I am? Because this is us having to deal with, I was not in court. Many people were not. I don't think you were in court. We have to deal with what the journalist said. And then granting a post-interview, you hear the speaker, you hear the lawyer, and then you now hear the attorney general. It's very confusing, isn't it?
Malpe, you see, that is how low we have come as a nation. The judgments of courts have become matters of mere conjecture. It's just a court makes a pronouncement in Nigeria, and it is discussed like, the bar was involved, the bench was involved. But when we talk about the judgments of courts in Nigeria, it's like we are in the beer parlor, which is another bar. It is very sad that is how low we have come in this country. Time was, even when a small me started practice, you cannot trivialize the pronouncement of a court, a judgment, even another ruling, a judgment, a final judgment. Now, you will see that I try as much as possible not to be as categorical as I want to be. This is because I have not seen the judgment. The man who spoke has not seen the judgment. Even the lawyer for the speaker that was deposed, legally or illegally, he has not seen the judgment. Most of the time, when the court pronounces judgment, as they are reading this judgment, they are seeing some typographical errors. And they will tell you after delivery that, oh, this judgment will be ready later today. Sometimes they will say in 2 days' time, in 3 days' time. Sometimes you don't actually get a hard copy of the judgment until a week or 2 weeks after. Because then the typos they see when you are reading, when the judge is reading, is human error, slips. They then try to correct some of these things. It has nothing to do with the substance. What I'm driving at is the people who have talked about this judgment, they were giving briefings now. None of them has seen the hard copy. A reasonable lawyer, a well-trained lawyer, a lawyer who respects the court, who respects the law, will not come out and begin to speculate about the content of a judgment unless and until you have seen it. That is why it is one of the cardinal rules of practice of our ethics, the ethics of our profession, that when you are a counsel in a matter, when you have a vested interest, you are interested in a matter, you don't come before the press and you begin to make comments about it. Because naturally, you are bound to be biased. And the coloration of your representation will definitely be, more in favor of your position, even after losing a case in court. So what has happened now is, the Nigerian public should disregard what those parties are saying, the parties on record. We should wait until we see the actual judgment. But as a reasonable person, with my own little experience and knowledge and understanding of the law, I believe that, yes, the court has made a pronouncement about the passage of the budget for Rivers State 2024. There is no way the court will arrive at the decision it arrived at without making some comments on the constitution of the House that passed that budget into law. And so whether it is the ratio, which is the main reason for the decision, or what we call an obiter, which is just an aside, the important thing is that the conclusion of the Court of Appeal by Justice Oyewole is that the budget was not validly passed in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. For now, let us be content with that. Now, let them continue to gloat over matters, personal matters. That is not our concern here.
Mr. Lede, just one question I have. In all of this, at the end of the day, just as you have cited, it's the people of Rivers State that are at the lower rung of the ladder, so to speak. So do you see a reconciliation? Or maybe I should put it better. How do you see this issue playing out? Do you see a reconciliation between the executive, that's the governor of Rivers State, and the appellants in this case? Because at the end of the day, they are citizens of the same, indigents of the same state.
In the interest of Rivers State, there should be a reconciliation. Like politicians say, it is part of our language now in Nigeria. In politics, there are no permanent friends or permanent enemies. If the interest of Rivers State is paramount in the hearts of this political juggernaut, I would say yes, there should be reconciliation.
So how do you see that playing out?
In reality, I can say without any doubt that there will only be reconciliation probably after 2027 elections.
And why is that?
Because people, they are all angling for 2027. They have not even delivered on 2023 on their promises of 2023 elections. They are already angling. This is about positioning. It's football. It's a game of chess. Everybody, you can see it. I know you have to ask the questions and I have to answer. But the truth of the matter is, look at what is going on there. There's been a whole year of non-performance. It's about damage. It's not damage control. Houses are being demolished. People are being killed. Everything that is bad about governance is being, shown to us in Rivers State. If you want to discuss what is bad about politics in any part of the world, you take Rivers State as an example. So
Okay.
if this is really about delivering on the promises, political promises during the
Just a quick one, Mr. Loide. Just one quick last one.
It's not such that.
Yeah, my apologies, and that point is noted. Do you see a situation where the real people who are at the front of this ladder, at the front of this issue, do you see them in a room? Do you see maybe I should put it this way. Do you see this as more of a legal or political tussle in Rivers State? Is it more political than legal or governance? Which of these do you see playing out as more?
It's purely, I've said that in so many words, it's purely political. There is nothing legal. It's unfortunate that all the politicians try to drag our courts into all these their matters. I mean, let me quickly digress and take an example. You know, the American Supreme Court, a lot of matters came before them. And, you know, usually the Supreme Court over there reserves the right to just say, oh, we are not hearing this case with a note, or we are hearing this case, or this case is hereby dismissed, struck out. That's a right that the Supreme Court over there reserves. Incidentally, we practice presidential kind of democracy. I believe the time has come. If you know the history of our election petitions, most of these election petitions, particularly involving governors and senators, I mean, there's a laughable history behind why all these cases started going to the Supreme Court. It is a story for another day. Most of these cases, they are not supposed to go outside, even Rivers State. You begin to wonder, we have Federal High Court in Rivers, Federal High Court in every state. And then that Federal High Court is virtually redundant. Then they will rush to Federal High Court Abuja. Why? You ask yourself, why did the federal government invest so much money in setting up Federal High Courts? Some of the Federal High Courts, the structures, the houses they sit within, they were constructed by the state government. And yet, when there is an issue involving matters concerning the state, they will rush to Abuja. They will go to every other state, every other Federal High Court except the one in the state. So it's purely political. All the politicians are fishing. They are fishermen, and they are not fishing good for the people.
Well, I guess if they permit when they tell all night, they might go to another area where they'll be able to catch something. I want to thank you for talking to us this morning, Mr. John Oluyede. Always a pleasure to have you on.
Yes.